Welcome, everybody, to our latest installment of the Ultimate Cosplay Podcast. I am Chad Hoku, your host, and joining me is my co-host, Chris Talk, as well as Harrison of Volpin Props, as well as Bill Doran of Punished Props. So I'm really excited to have an opportunity to talk to some of them about, past events and then kind of just experiences along the way. If you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat. Sammy is going to list them all for us, and we're going to try to get through as many as we can closer to the end. So they're going to come in from order in which you ask them, though. So without further ado, welcome, guys. How are you doing? And, please, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself if they don't know who you are?
Sure. You want to go ahead, Harrison?
Sure. My name is Harrison Krix. I am the owner and creative director / lead artist for a company in Atlanta called Volpin Props, which is a company that I started in 2009 doing replicas from the video games industry. We deal mostly with large gaming studios all the way down to indie studios. We make replica work, and we also do a lot of esports trophies. So we have a crew of about 6 people, 5 artists, 1 business manager. Got a 2,400 square foot workshop here in Atlanta. We're about to knock down the wall and take over 2,400 square feet next door, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
I'm kind of I think most people know me for the esports stuff these days, although we do big installation stuff too. We've made everything from 15-foot tall dragons to helmets and guns and big chrome things with shiny gems in them. My jam is prop making. Always has been.
Yeah. And Bill, how about yourself?
I got my start doing prop making stuff about 1.5 years after Harrison. So everything I've done offset by a 1.5 years of him. So Harrison, you're coming up on 10 years full time, yeah?
Wow.
This year, actually, July will be the 10-year anniversary of me quitting my job at my old graphic design studio, July 1st. So
that's awesome.
I'm only a couple months away from the decade anniversary, which is absolute insanity.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's
I was just gonna say not moments, but after I actually met you that summer when you were still in the honeymoon period of having just quit your job, and you totally hyped me up, and I went and quit my job. So I'm on year 9. But I got another one to go for a decade.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we've known each other 9 years. That's something.
Wow. Yeah, I think we met DragonCon 2011. Sounds right.
Yeah, I think that's right. That would have been the year that I quit my job. And you were in your Hawk armor. I remember running into you in the hall in the mirror. I was like, that's some awesome Hawk armor. And you were like, you're Harrison Krix. I'm like, how you doing, man? And like did the chat, and you were like, I'm thinking of quitting my job. And I was like, I did it. And
best decision ever.
God, I had 8 weeks at that point. And here's a fun thing. Actually, it's just out of frame. But
while you're grabbing that, I was gonna say if Bill wants to introduce himself, what he's known for, what he does,
right? A little more thoroughly.
Do that before we start reminiscing about
stuff here.
No.
Oh, is it?
I can go grab mine. I have a blue one.
Yeah.
But no, right around that time, I was getting into prop and costume making, and I started doing commissions like a lot of us do. But after a couple of years of that, I transitioned it into more instructional tutorial stuff. So kicked off a YouTube channel. We've had a lot of success on that in the last 2 years, which has been amazing. My wife and I now wrote 3 books on making foam armor and costumes, and we have I think 700 videos on our YouTube channel teaching people how to make props and costumes.
What's your subscriber count at these days?
We're very near 700,000, which is very exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You said 600 videos, is that right?
600 or 700, I don't know exactly.
I like how you're like, it may be plus or minus 100,
I mean that's how it is though. Like at this point, how many posts do you guys have on Facebook regarding business stuff? Like it, so it's interesting because I actually got involved with prop making and right around 2011 as well, and I've known you guys for I think going on 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah.
For those of you in chat, both of these guys actually knew pre One-Eyed Chad, and you guys knew me when I was in my full binocular vision glory. So
I remember the day that happened. That was quite a day.
That was quite the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Moving on from that, though, I gotta say it's been an incredible journey over the last 10 years or so, seeing the just evolution of cosplay, evolution of prop making. Really, what fascinates me is how lower the barriers to entry have become to really get started. I actually blame you for most of our competition, Harrison and Bill, because Harrison's proven that some dude working in his garage can make props that just blow your mind, and the rest of us have been just constantly excited and invigorated seeing the content that both of you guys are creating, whether that's in physical production or a combination of the two with education. So I speak for, I think, a lot of the community when I say thank you so much. I know Chris has now joined in on that content creation process and is spreading the words of wisdom as well.
That's something else we can all blame Bill for.
Right.
But
I will say something. I think something that Harrison and I share is that we both set a pretty mean pace.
Yeah.
You really do. You set a standard for creating content and or a high level of skill or both that people are always seem to be chasing, which is really
it's you say that it's more like we're running from everybody.
Yeah.
Like it's
the people nipping at your heels.
Yeah, the feeling
So it's
is
just
the
cat and
feeling
mouse.
is less like people are chasing us. It's more like, oh my God, if like there's just this mountain of people who are exceedingly talented and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And I have to work 72 hours a day to possibly be in any way remarkable because of all of this talent.
Do you realize how cool that is, though? Like, especially for other people to hear that because, and I'm not going to like lay this on too thick, but so many people look up to actually all four of us in a lot of ways, and a lot of people would say, I started doing blank because of so and so or this person or Evil Ted or the Egg Sisters or whoever, and for the general audience or for prop makers that started because of someone, to say that you're just trying to stay ahead of them is pretty cool. Like,
yeah,
it humanizes all of us or any influencer or anyone.
The crazy thing about being, having done this 10 years as a full-time professional, but I really started doing this in 2009. So it's, 12, 13-ish. I threw a post up the other day about my Daft Punk helmet. Daft Punk broke up.
I saw that.
A lot of people are, obviously talking about that. We got a whole bunch of requests, and I don't make helmets anymore. There's a lot of other artists who do a really good job at that. But I threw a post up on Instagram, and I got a message from a guy, and he was like, "Hey, I just graduated university. I went to college, degree in special effects." To one of the best, I'm unfamiliar with the school because it's in England. And he's like, I saw your how to build a Daft Punk helmet video when I was 9 years old.
Oh man.
And he's like, and I like, and this at the end of this spring, yeah, he's like, I'll have my degree in special effects. Like he's like, I saw that video and it dictated the trajectory of my life. And I've heard that for so many times, and it's cool. It's terrifying, but it's really cool, to know that like I threw this video together. I put a helmet together. I've shown people how to make stuff with MDF and mold and all that. And people are like, I'll make my life about that. I'm gonna do that forever. And it's deeply flattering. And I'm glad I could do that because, man, I just worked at the world's shittiest job for so long doing graphic design, and I spent 7 years of my life working for a paycheck for a job I hated for a company that also didn't give a shit about me. And so like I'm so glad I could spare people that and hopefully give them something that they want to do with their life.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of an amazing answer. Just
that, so it really was.
Yeah, that was cool.
And you I know this is something that you've been aware of, probably painfully aware of for so many years, that you were able to answer it so casually, and you've probably got a lot of examples like that. But at some point during this show, I'd like for each of us to share something similar to that, because I have a story similar to what Harrison just said. But Bill,
raising his hand.
Yeah, Bill.
I have a fun one.
Okay.
Very similar, not as touching,
let's hear it.
but it's still good. I was going to my friend's house and we were going to get tacos on the way. So I stopped at Taco Time, even though I'm not a fan of Taco Time.
I've been to a Taco Time in Seattle too, and
my friend insisted Taco Time. So I go to this Taco Time I'm unfamiliar with. I order my tacos. I wait for my tacos. Nice young gentleman comes out to give me his tacos or my tacos. He said, "Hey, I've been watching your videos since I was a kid." And I was like, "Oh,
wow.
this guy's probably 20." And I was like, "Thanks for making me feel old." And then he said, "Do you want some extra tacos?" And I was like, "Yes, I do."
Yes.
Finally, all those years of being a YouTuber have paid off. Free tacos.
Oh man.
I knew you guys were loaded. You YouTubers getting all the perks.
Yep.
People just giving free shit everywhere.
One more measure of success. I have one. I'll make it a quick one, but I had just started making YouTube videos. It was only about a year, and I started, by the way, because Bill Doran told me to years ago. My first ever competition, Bill was a judge. And you walked up to me at a bar the night before the contest, and you were like, "Hey, Talk, come over here." And I was like, "You remember?"
Can I interject real quick? Was I like, "Hey, I just started a YouTube channel. It's the best thing ever. You should do it."
No, not even close. You'd been doing it for probably 5 years at the time.
Okay.
But I was like fresh into cosplay, into competing, into streaming, and things like that. And you'd seen my Twitch streams, and I was competing, and you were judging me the next day. But you said, "Hey, Talk, come over here." And you were like, "Talk, listen, you're a good-looking guy. You've got good chemistry on camera. You're good at what you create. People like you. Things like, you said a lot of really nice things to me. And you said, you need to start doing more. You're not doing enough. You need to do videos. You need to write books. You need to start judging. You just told me everything that I needed to do.
That Bill is a slave driver.
Right?
Yeah.
Have you finished the list yet? I mean, come on.
I'm working on it. So anyway, I started making YouTube videos shortly thereafter, and I put out one particular video that was how to just tailor a t-shirt to make you look more sexy, the way that Harrison looks in his very slim-fitted, gray t-shirt right now, which I'm sure he tailored, right?
The trick is you have to be slim for it to look that good.
Right. So I'm very tall and thin, so I put out a video. It was like a 5-minute video, and I was like, this video is so stupid. I was like, this is such a I don't know. I put this video out, and I thought it was really dumb, and it got several thousand views within a couple of days, and I got probably between 5 and 10 emails from different people around the world saying, my husband or my partner or my lover passed away, and I've got a pile of their t-shirts, and I couldn't bring myself to throw them away, and you just showed me how to make them fit myself so that I can keep those memories alive and that love alive. And I started like crying reading these emails, and people
that's
said,
really sweet.
Then I started getting ones from people saying, like, I tailored my late husband's t-shirt and I wore it to a party, and everyone recognized this shirt, and they all started crying. And then those people started emailing me, and I started crying even harder. And I was like, there I was thinking I was putting out such a just bullshit vain video on how to look more attractive. But people just took it and ran away with something far more powerful than I could have imagined. And yeah, things like that happen, And there I was just thinking, I want to make something and share it with people. And what the two of you, and I want to hear something from Hoku as well. But Bill, I know you almost tripped. Go ahead, please.
Well, one thing I wanted to say was when I first started my YouTube channel in 2012, I made 12 videos that year and I got 200 subscribers, right? Like, that's yep. And the next year I made a bunch more videos and I got a couple thousand more subscribers. But it was in that second year I was at Emerald City Comic Con, and someone ran up to me because they recognized me for my videos and were like, "Hey, I watched the tutorial on how you made that. Thank you." And I was like, "Really? You might be the first person that has ever commented about my work publicly out loud." And so I remember that very vividly. because when you make content, when you're just getting started, it's easy to feel like you're throwing it into the void and no one's actually watching it. But when a real human reaches out to you and says that helped you in some way, you're like, oh, people watch this. That's I'm like, this feels different. This feels weird. I'm a little self-conscious. But that fuels you to make them, especially when only 200 people showed up. It fuels you to make the next thing and the next thing.
Bill, do you know about your fan from PAX 2013 who thinks you're an asshole?
No, which one is that?
Which
so
one?
Brother,
oh no,
This was 8 years ago, by the way.
Your brother Rob was at that. Convention.
Yeah, okay, I see where this is going.
I love this story.
My identical twin brother.
So people that don't know, weird fact,
ahead.
Bill and I both have twins. He has an identical twin brother. I have a twin sister. So kind of weird coincidence. But we're at PAX East 2013, and Rob was there, and somebody walked up to Rob and was like, "You're Bill Doran, man! I love your videos." And Rob was like, "It happens a lot. I'm actually his twin brother." And the guy apparently was
like such a fake excuse or something.
The guy apparently was like, "That's good. That's really good." No, just seriously though, great videos. I really appreciate it. Like, love watching your stuff. And Rob again was like, "No, I really have a twin brother. His name is Bill Doran. I'm Rob. It's not." And the guy was like, "I'm just trying to pay you a compliment. Be a dick about it." Okay? Just full on assumed that it was Bill with the weakest excuse trying to blow him off. So you have one person out there who's like, "Yeah, I love this guy's videos." Met you in person, is like,
what
a jerk. Rob was at a Costco, and a kid ran up to him and was like, "Bill, can I get a picture with you?" And he was like, "I'm not Bill, I'm his twin brother. But you can take a picture and just say it's him." And the kid was like, "Okay."
I have only been recognized, and like I don't have as much of a public face. Obviously, we don't do YouTube videos, and when we do a handful of videos, there's usually like 12 people building something. It's a big project, and so like I've only been recognized maybe 2 or 3 times in public. One of which was like a coffee shop downtown. But the other time I was recognized in public, I was in a model making store in Akihabara, Japan. And I was there specifically to buy a detail airbrush, these tiny little airbrushes that I haven't been able to find in the States. And that was where I found the conical sanding drums for Dremels. Like, there was some really cool shit in there. Ooh. But I'm walking around and this dude turns the corner. He's like, "You're Volpin Props." And I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" I'm literally on the other side. He was for him, he was from New Zealand. So it was just, just right up the street, kind of, effectively. He's like, but he's like, "Oh, Volpin Props, I was wanting to meet you." And I'm like, "Seriously? Here of all." Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, got a photo with him.
Do you have a
My
story?
fly was down.
You can tell
I don't do this.
I want to hear a Hoku story of him.
All right.
Sorry.
Either being embarrassed in public by being recognized, or something very heartwarming and special that has happened because of the work that you've done.
Oh man.
It has to be extremely touching, though.
Right, like I have
no
to
pressure
cry right now,
but very touching.
You know what? Yeah, no, I can do touching completely, in all the right ways.
Touching.
Look, the fact is, all 3 of you guys are perfect individual, or perfect kind of examples of people that all of us look up to, right? For a multitude of different reasons. But case in point, Bill, you're forever and always going to be one of my closest friends, because in my time of need, when I was injured and hurting, like, I was on a video call with you as soon as you could possibly get on there, just to be like, "Are you alive?" Like,
Right.
like holy, like, and that's something I think that, look, there's a lot of riffraff in like the cosplay community, right? And even in the prop making community, like, there's a lot of negative stuff, but there's just as much good stuff as long as you look for it, right? And so I think that it's important to recognize, like, part of what caused my accident is being involved in prop making and being a smart dude who, I kind of have this, the smarter you are, it means the simpler your mistake is actually explosive in nature, no pun intended. And so it's like, the best of us make really stupid mistakes sometimes, but we've got a community and a group of people that are here to support us and say, hey, you know, we hope that you don't leave our community just because you've had a bad example or a bad, you know, thing happen to you. So it's whether it's, you know, the three of you on here or the rest of the group, you know, so much of my life has really been formed around growing past pain, really, and also realizing that the knowledge I gained through that puts me in a position to help others not repeat the same mistakes and experience the same pains and maybe get past them and a little bit more advanced. Like, I'm just grateful to everything that I've had an opportunity to do, because I could have lost all, right? So it's like, it's, you know, here I am in a podcast and a conversation, and I made a stupid mistake. But I will say the one thing that's very good, and you know, I can encourage the chat to do this, is just realize, like, you don't have to hate anybody. Like, I don't hate myself, but like, straight up, my accident, I caused it, right? And I've never blamed anybody else for this. I completely blame myself, but I also accept it, right? You know, it was an accident. And so now it's like, what can I do with that trouble and that problem to fix things? I love fixing things. I think you guys know that about me. It's like, I love to know the inner workings and the structure, whether it's, you know, philosophical, science, or just like the way that the body works. Yeah. So I don't know. Is that soft and like heartwarming enough?
It is.
That was very touching.
That was.
If I can expand on that from a third party, your determination and your ability to endure so much physical harm and to continue doing what you do and actually grow beyond it is such a huge example and beacon of strength and inspiration for so many, you know, new makers or existing, doesn't matter. But like, I met you post accident, and you're one of my closest friends, and just knowing what you've been through and that you continue to do it is incredible. So
I think everybody here, though, is a perfect example of hard times and then using them to really temper yourself, really. You know, tough situations don't have to be destructive. They can actually be very constructive, as long as you're learning how to refine that process, whether that's who you are or how you respond to certain tough situations. You can genuinely become a much better version. And I think everybody in here is kind of a person who's evolved with that sort of determination. That's so much of success really does correlate with determination to really commit and keep pushing your limits, you know, growing and educating. Bill, I think you'll agree with me when I say this. I think the most rewarding thing is teaching 20 people how to do something, and then also the knowledge that 5 of them are going to create some new technique and bring it back to you. And you're now exponentially 5 times, you know, you've got 5 new techniques to refine what you're doing. And then you can, you know, go ahead and distribute that to your people. It's like, it's so much exponential growth. It's why the cosplay community and the prop making community has exploded so much, is we're crowdsourcing knowledge. That's incredible.
That and 3D printers are awesome.
Oh, heck yeah. I think you and I got on that train early, though.
Yeah.
Quick aside, I've been reading the chat as this is going through. I've seen a couple of questions. And somebody, let me scroll up real quick so I can get the name. Atlas Crafts had mentioned that they felt like all the questions are being discarded. And I'm also reading the chat, and Sammy's grabbing all the questions. So we are going to get to those.
Hoku's fiance is recording all of those, and we will get to those towards the end.
Yeah,
so I just want to make sure that we're not, like, I'm not ignoring this. I've seen somebody else ask a couple of questions about funding my company, and I guess we'll grapple all that at the end of this. But yeah, they're being recorded, so we're not ignoring. We're just
we love you guys.
Free form right now.
Thank you so much for noticing that.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got a big list of questions on the teleprompter up here that I'm going to be reading from closer, you know, towards the second half. So with that being said, are we, I think we've kind of answered that question and had the deep, meaningful moments. So I'm going to start.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually,
in the sentiment of wonderful things that we've all experienced because of our work, you know, and we all do different things, you know, not all of us do YouTube videos, but not all of us make, you know, giant trophies for esport, you know, competitions and things like that. So And what Hoku just said, with the sentiment of, there's a lot of terrible things that happen, but we all kind of band together and try to make this a really positive community, kind of speaks very loudly to what Ultimate Cosplay as a brand and as an event and as a contest really tries to capture, of being an event and an organization of positive makers from around the world to share some positivity, especially, and this was born out of, lockdown. Our first contest was 2 months into lockdown last year. And as far as Harrison and Bill's participation in the contest this year, actually, Harrison was part of it last year because you were an honorary judge.
Like 2, maybe 1%, like the smallest
You were
sliver
a
of participation.
huge. Okay, Jesslyn Cupcake is in chat right now, who won your award last year, by the way, and that had a very powerful effect on her, and you were part of that. So you and Eric Korgeek were the 2 honorary judges that we had last year. But anyway, we're really happy to have you returning to be a judge on camera. So you're somewhat familiar with our madness and our process, but Bill is brand new to this. So
Bill, did you hear what Harrison gave away last year as his Judge's Choice Award?
Do I want to? Because then I gotta come up with something good. Yes, I do want to hear it.
Harrison,
I gold leafed a loop, and it was the Volpin Props Golden Loop Award.
I love that so much.
Yeah,
And I remember talking to you about it, and then I remember seeing it, and there's this little engraved brass plate in there, and it's in a shadow box, with crushed velvet, recessed. Oh my gosh, it was the best.
I feel like what I should do is try and get an entire sheet of floor mat chromed.
Oh god,
that's the only way I can. What do you think that would cost? About $700-800?
Oh yeah, just drop in the bucket.
Considering it would completely just disintegrate in a chroming vat, you'd have to be very clever about how you did that.
The hard part would be getting it to get in the chroming vat as foam floats. You wouldn't actually be able to submerse it.
Okay, so you're gonna be actually.
We could mill one out of aluminum on the CNC, Bill.
Yeah,
perfect.
Really
make it out of wood. And
we could even do the
texture on there.
Pattern.
Yeah. Just give somebody a sheet of diamond plate
problem.
steel and cut the pattern into the corners.
But that is part of our shows. All of the judges will be making a gift for their Judge's Choice selection. And Harrison or Bill, I don't know if you know what you're going to make. You don't have to tell people in advance. It can be a surprise.
Oh, it's gonna be a surprise.
So let it be a surprise.
Bill's gonna go get a sweater, and he's just gonna wear it for the rest of the year until the contest, and it's gonna have all the paint drips and stuff. That would actually be kind of funny.
Bill could do give away his sort of salmon hoodie.
Yeah,
he was so well known for.
It's still around.
Is it still around? Oh, man.
Yeah, it's self-aware though. Now I have to find it. It's scurrying around in the basement somewhere.
Is it like the
eating rats?
It's like the sorting hat. It's like, you are now a prop maker of house.
Wow, that's
Punish.
disgusting to think that there's a walking petri dish of your cells that you would share with someone. That's terrifying.
But it responds to my name, and so it's easy to deal with.
You know what though? I bet you that jacket has so much exposure to chemicals that it would actually create a force field around you and protect you from coronavirus.
Okay, side note, something else, something I figured out. I need to make a PSA about this because I had no idea.
Do it now.
Urethane resin dust is like thermite. I was filling up we do this thing with our big esports trophies where we'll slush cast the first layer, and then we'll backfill it with dud casting, so we're not wasting urethane and not just chucking stuff in the garbage. And so I diced up a bunch of stuff, and I was filling up this cavity and filling the cracks up, and I had a sort of a ball of a cat hair of sanding dust over in the corner. Came off our bandsaw. It's really thin ribbons of urethane, and I plunked that into the liquid resin, and it all wicked up like a capillary action. It just sucked it all in there. I was like, oh, that's really neat. And so I just started throwing handfuls of powder into this thing and watching it dissolve because I'm a kid and I like messing with chemistry. And so the last
what resin were you mixing it with, really quick?
Just urethane. I mean, it's all the same urethane when we're doing this.
Gotcha. I
So-
just know some have a stronger catalyst agent or like presence, like 300Q, for example, it starts boiling almost, right?
Oh yeah, we wouldn't do anything, that thick with 300Q. I mean, we mostly run 320. If we're doing a normal atmosphere gravity casting, we're not pressure casting it. If we're doing a pressure cast, it's 321 or 322 or something like that. Anyway, that's technicals. Anyway, so we're just plunking the chunks in there, and I was throwing these shavings, and the shavings are also 320. And like the last handful kind of flashed, and so there were a bunch of little like fuzzy bits sticking out, and I was like, I got to get rid of that. And I just grabbed a blowtorch and I went to kind of wick it off of there, and it just went boom, and like big like, well, small because it's a little thing, but small little like black mushroom cloud. And I was like, holy crap. And so I took a handful of this stuff outside. I just set it on the we were in an industrial park, so I just set it on the concrete and lit it on fire, and it just immediately, and it's just like a candle. Like if you kick it, it just throws flame everywhere. And man, that was scary. So like we swept up and emptied the dust collector.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I need to go empty my dust collector immediately.
Right. Yeah, man. And that, like, the finer it is, the easier it will just like flare up. And once it starts going, like basically one little part lights another. It's like a bunch of tiny match heads.
You know what though? It makes sense though, because the actual shavings as you're cutting it on like a very small level, it's probably a bunch of little micro strands, right?
Yeah,
so you just got this ball of wicks, right? Oh man.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that flammable, but hey, PSA, everybody watching there, go sweep your floors.
Sweep your floors.
All right, so yeah, how do you guys feel about being part of the show this year? And I don't know if you guys know I know Harrison does, but last year was our first show. We did it as a joke. We did it very quickly, and we had some of the most wild cosplayers, prop makers, and costumes show up that blew all of the judges away to the point where they were furious during prejudging. So I'm curious. Have either of you judged a virtual or online con before?
Yeah, I've done things where there was no live stream involved, but I've done like distanced judging. I judge people from this seat all day long. That's really what I'm trying to say.
I love the way you said that.
I did.
But yeah, never with the whole like theatrics of the live stream during the contest. Yeah.
I did one for Anime Expo last year. It was specifically designed about, it was their mask parade, and they did cosplay themed masks.
Okay.
So it was a contest entirely centered around that, which was kind of interesting. But
that was with Diana, right?
Sorry?
That was with Diana, right?
Yeah, it was Diana.
Yeah, she actually helped us early on when we were trying to get stuff structured and making sure that we were, trying to really be good about diversification and all that. Yep. She was a big asset.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So yeah, but big shout out to Diana Tolan for all the help she's always willing to give to the cosplay community as a whole. But yeah, I've got a question here that
let's do some questions. I'm excited.
I think we should dive into, but this one is because we kind of talked about it during a meeting recently, but you guys can feel free to answer whatever way. So for either one of you, if you want to answer, or both of you, what is the most interesting or entertaining thing that has ever happened to you at a convention?
Man, that's a broad list.
Yeah, Harrison told that story at Dragon Con of being trapped in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Dude,
I got a fun one.
Hilarious. You don't have to tell it, but God, that's funny.
I have a fun Dragon Con adventure with Bill and Harrison's story.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, we wandered over to a different hotel for a party, and it was kind of late at night. I think 3 a.m, something. I don't know. It was pretty late.
Or early in the morning.
Or early.
Very early.
And we wandered, and on the way back, we're heading back to the Marriott. Outside, someone had made a Gawk Droid out of like plastic bins, and it was like you could recognize it right away.
Yeah,
that's a Gawk Droid right away. Anyone would know.
I think somebody had repurposed it as a beer cooler, know.
But he got abandoned, left on the street, and we thought, well, it would be fun if we brought him with us. So we dragged him back to the Hyatt and hauled it through the front. And then we were like, well, what do we do with this stupid thing now? Well, the elevators were available. They usually aren't. So we're like, let's chuck him in the elevator. We shoved him in the elevator, hit all the buttons, and ran out giggling like children, just as an onlooker said, hey, isn't that those prop guys? And we ran off, and he took a ride up every floor in the Hyatt.
Yep.
Nice.
I loved that. Isn't that those prop guys?
So you're just the
nope.
mischievous prop guys. That's
No,
I'm his twin. I'm his twin.
Yeah, no, I'm
Rob.
Rob. Twin.
I'm Rob Doran.
Speaking of your brother again, last year he submitted to enter into our contest. And
Wait, I thought that was Bill.
Yeah,
I thought Bill was actually entering and cosplaying as Rob.
No,
in
so
his
so
Iron
Rob
Man.
did his. It was a mashup. What was it, like Boba Fett?
Yeah, it was a Mando.
That's
I think it was a
right.
Mando Iron Man.
Yeah, it was a
There you
Mando
go.
Iron Man, and I was like, is this going to be an issue? Like, if he enters and he gets selected as a finalist, are people just going to be like, oh, this whole thing is rigged because Bill's doppelganger?
I judged my brother at Emerald City Comic Con.
Oh, how was that?
I'm sure you've judged your brother on other times.
Oh yeah. Again, from this seat, perpetually
That's
just
funny.
judging him. Yeah,
All right, so
it was fine. He got third place. He had a really good Iron Man costume.
Cool.
Yeah.
No one. In fact, when one of the other judges was like, "You think it might be a problem?" And I was
Right.
like, "If people have a better Iron Man costume, they could have brought it."
Harrison,
Yeah.
do you
And
have
there wasn't any weirdness with that.
do you have a crazy con story that you'd like to share? As
And,
per the question.
so Dragon Con, 2014 or 2015. I think it was the year I did the Marriott camo for the first time. And I was like hanging out with friends downstairs, and somebody, another friend of mine in the special effects industry, was like, "Hey, you should come up to the Hilton bar, and like we're all having drinks at the Hilton bar. You should really come up here." And I was like, "Okay, sure," And so I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go visit. Like, I'll back in a minute." As Frankie Bolito, who a few guys know, and Frank was like, "Hey, come on up here." So I was like, "Sure, what the hell?" And so I got in the elevator, go all the way up there. And I'd never been to the bar for you. Like, you need just like a VIP pass key card. And like the guests go up there and they generally close it off to other people. So, but they let me up. And I walk over, and Adam Savage is sitting at one of the bars, or one of the tables, just shooting the shit with people. And I walked up and I was like, holy shit. And I'd never met him before. And I'm like, Mr. Savage, I'm a huge fan of your work. It's a real honor to meet you. And he looks at me, he goes, "You're Harrison Krix. You're a very dangerous man." And I was like, just super touching, really. I mean, meeting your hero, meeting your celebrity, that kind of thing. And it was a fantastic moment. I've had other longer stories. That's the one that sticks out to me as like one of the coolest things, is like Adam Savage actually knowing who I was.
That's pretty awesome.
So that was pretty cool. We sat there and shot the shit for a little while, and then we're like, we're leaving, and like they're closing the bar, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and we're like, we'll just go over to this other kind of seating area. And as we're leaving, I was actually talking to Maurice LaMarche at the time, which was also really fucking cool, and just chatting with him about voice acting, Futurama, and that kind of thing. And as we're leaving, this obliterated drunk lady stumbles out of some room, passing Adam Savage. She goes, "Mr. Heineman, I love you and Mythbusters." And God, and he was just like, "It's Mr. Savage, actually, but thank you very much. I really appreciate it."
Oh man.
And that actually leads me to another story. And I should have led with this one, actually, because this one's a better one. I hope you don't mind me taking up a little bit of the air.
No.
I don't think anyone
It's
cares.
your guys' time, please.
At MomoCon, the first year that MomoCon went from being a free convention in Atlanta to an actual paid con, it was at the Dragon Con hotels, because Dragon Con actually bought MomoCon, and they're kind of one company now. And so it was at the Marriott, which I'm familiar with, and I was guesting that year, and I was coming back from getting a coffee, and Grant Imahara was there, and he wasn't a guest at the con or anything. He just happened to be in Atlanta. It was like, I'll check him out at con, and I'd never met Grant before, and and I was like, holy shit, this guy. So I jogged up to him, and he was getting on the escalator. And if anybody been to Dragon Con, the escalators in the area are pretty long. Yeah. And I got on the escalator next to him. I was like, hey, you probably get this a lot. I'm really sorry, interrupt your day. I know you're doing things. I love your work. Not just the Mythbuster stuff, like back at ILM, Galaxy Quest, NSA protectors, like one of my all-time favorite starships. And I just love the miniature work, and your stuff on BattleBots back in the day was really inspiring. And I love everything you do. And he was like, hey, thank you. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. And I ran out of stuff to say, and we were halfway down the escalator. So I was like, love your work. And he's like, really appreciate that. Thank you.
And you didn't have to go down there, right?
No, I didn't. So at the end of it, we get to the bottom. And I was like, have a good one. And I just got back up on the escalator. And so Grant's like, you too.
Oh man!
And we ended up at the same con. My buddy Steve Meisner got me an invite to this startup convention in Atlantic City, and this was 2017 or so. Atlantic City Boardwalk Con, which I don't think is happening anymore. And Grant and I were both guests, and we were judging their prop making competition. And I sat down with him, and I was like, "Hey man, good to see you again. You definitely don't remember this, but I remember this." And I told him the same story, and he told me, he's like, don't feel bad. And he's like, I did the exact same thing, but with Nathan Fillion. Like, he got to meet Nathan Fillion at one point in time. He's like, oh my God, yeah, Serenity, Castle, it's so good. I love it. It's phenomenal. And Nathan Fillion's like, hey, cool, really appreciate it. And then they were apparently at some sort of like, shindig or something. And they were both like,
okay,
I'll see you later. And he had nothing to follow up with. He was like, I know exactly what you mean, because I had the same conversation sort of fall flat on its face. And it just, he's like, I get it. We've been there. We're all just people. Don't worry about it. And so, obviously losing Grant last year was a horrible thing. He was an amazing person. And I have one more, and this is the last one.
All yours.
After Boardwalk Con, I was actually in the elevator with Grant Imahara at Dragon Con and riding down. And I was like, hey, Grant. Like, oh, Harrison, nice to see you again. And this person gets on, another drunk person on the elevator. It's great. And Grant's standing there, and this dude's like, I know you from somewhere. And he's like, I'm Grant Imahara. I was on Mythbuster. He was like, weren't you on TV? And you look like somebody. And he's like, do I look like Grant Imahara from Mythbusters? And he's like, no, that's not it.
Oh no.
Weren't you in Star Trek? And he's like, are you sure it's not Grant Imahara from Mythbusters? He's like, no, that's pretty sure that's not the guy. I think you're that guy from Star Trek. And the man took it in stride. He was so about it.
But what's funny is Grant actually did a Star Trek like fan series with Stanley and all of them. I knew Grant because he was out here in SoCal, and oh man, I think we all could just go on about him all day, because he's one of the individuals. He was so willing to just communicate and listen, and if you needed help, he wanted to help, and he was willing to give advice. Like I adored him the same way that I adore Adam Savage, for example, right? I wanted to tell you guys a funny story, if Sammy doesn't mind, about her interaction with Nathan Fillion, and that's just because you guys will love it so much. So do you guys know Leanna Vamp and Cameron Vamp? Yep. I think you all do, yeah. So we were at their wedding, right? And Nathan was there. And so Sammy was super happy. And
Sammy's in the chat now saying, no, please, no, by the way.
That is her. No, she would have been vocal if she was against this.
She would tackle him and pull him away from his
long story short, Sammy had a tremendous amount of champagne, and she was super happy for the bride and the groom. And she was so drunk, she leaned into me. Nathan Fillion's like right behind her. She leans into me and she thinks she's whispering, and she says, do you think Nathan Fillion will hate me if he knows I haven't seen Firefly? But she shouted it. And the whole room, which we're all drunk, everybody just gets quiet. And we're just like, and I'm like, Sammy, you said that loud. And she's like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. And I was like, yeah, you did. She's like, oh no. I haven't seen. Oh, what is it? Castle either. So just so everybody knows, we all have that awkward panda inside of us.
I've got a quick one,
mouth.
which is funny because this happened to me with Harrison Krix, actually. At my first Dragon Con, I was invited to a dinner at the Mellow Mushroom in Atlanta.
Oh, man. I could go for some Mellow Mushroom.
A lot of makers go to that. And I'm not going to tell the whole story because I think it's too soon, you know? Not enough time has gone by, but it basically in a nutshell. I tried saying something really smart to Harrison because I know he's really smart, and it fell on its fucking face. And it was one of those things where we were both kind of standing there, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go get some more pizza," and he was like, "Yeah, me too. I think like his wife needs him or something. I don't know, whatever." But I was like, I need to make sure that never happens again. And I think the next time I saw you was in the tent at TwitchCon 2019, and you were judging me in my Zenogre armor.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to turn around because I didn't know where the hell you went. And I bumped into you because your head was between my legs because you were checking to see if I had painted the inside of my folds that were draping from my belt. And I realized that when I looked down, I saw your mohawk sticking out from between my legs. And I felt like that kind of equalized the awkward level there for a moment. And then we went out for like swordfish dinner or something, and Hoku drove in from
fish sticks. I think,
you know, you gotta get up close and personal with judging, man. Right. You know, especially at something like TwitchCon where you gotta make sure that you see everything. So
yeah. Also, the loop doesn't work from 5 feet away. You got really get in there.
Just right there, checking it out.
Yep,
getting up in the deets.
But I just looked down and I saw his eyes, his eyebrows, and his hair coming out, and I was like, okay, I'm going to allow this. And
Atlas, at least Talk and I were both at TwitchCon. Hoku was there, not judging, just sort of popped by.
Oh, really quick before you answer, just for the podcast's sake, you're answering a question from Atlas Craft that says, "Hold up, who of you were at TwitchCon 2019?"
Yeah.
Just so everybody in the YouTube.
I'm terrible about that.
All of us except for Bill is the answer.
Yeah, I wasn't at that one.
Yeah,
I was there, but I didn't attend. That was one of my off years.
You showed up wearing a Talk Custom shirt, hoping I would win something, and I let you down.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's because you weren't wearing a Hoku prop shirt.
I was wearing the Hoku prop shirt that you gave me when you won the first year.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, I was wearing that shirt.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
that's funny.
Do we have a next question?
I'm going to sneak something in here real quick.
Yeah.
Harrison and I were talking about before the stream, because I got a thing that I'm really happy with. I bought a BattleBot wheel.
I'm so jealous.
Yes.
So I knew Harrison was into BattleBots, and I think your wife is too.
Yeah, we watch it together.
Right, my wife and I watch BattleBots together as well. And I kind of wish I had realized that, because the season just ended and we could have been talking about it for the last few months, but
yeah,
we'll catch up now. Anyway, some of the bots, they were selling their clearly very broken parts on eBay, and I bought a wheel and I made a stand for it, which is very exciting.
That's amazing.
So jealous.
And I was just curious, Harrison, which type of bot do you find to be the most effective? What's your favorite? I like vertical spinners are currently kind of my favorite. I'm curious what your
should be on like a personality test type of thing.
I like a vert. I like a vert spinner too. I feel like you can make I feel like a lot of the unaired teams, the teams that have a little difficulty controlling the robot, I think people go for a vertical spinner when they don't have the ability to drive it very well. Like they inherently believe that the larger weapon disc is going to compensate for inefficient driving skills. But I think when you watch a robot like Shatter or obviously Whiplash control a fight, or Hydra, for that matter, with really good driving, able to control the speed of a fight, I think a lot more of it comes down to that level of, like the ability to drive your robot. For instance, as much as I love Hypershock, Will had a really tough time. Will and his team had a really tough time this year, and they couldn't get it together. And that's a dangerous robot, and they just didn't dial it in. They got out-driven a lot of times. I think if I were to build one, I would probably do something kind of Swiss Army feeling, like the previous Atlanta team, Bombshell, that hasn't competed in the past couple of years. I really like their single tooth design, but they could also reconfigure to a lifting wedge.
And a lot of teams have that reconfigurable sort of things.
I think that would be my angle. And I've thought about this. What I want to build is, I'm going to lean into my skills here and make just the hottest looking robot in robot combat. I'm gonna make something with like Ferrari level paint and just deep metallic shine, chrome wheels, custom tires. Like, I want this thing to be the prettiest robot in the competition.
Are we gonna have a team Volpin eventually in BattleBots?
If you guys would like to participate, I have a standing invite.
Sponsor it? Can we decorate it like a NASCAR and put a bunch of...
So, and little side knowledge here. I've had a standing invite to compete in BattleBots for the last 5 years from the creator. They want people like us in there, right? They want artists, because they have a lot of engineers, they have a lot of makers. But they're like, we need crazy. They want they need
creative thinking. They need creative engineering. Really.
They want things that are spectacular. And that's why all the robots have these crazy paint jobs and designs. That's why you see artistic things cropping up. I think Adam Wrigley's Shatter was a beautiful thing to watch. Hydra's a beautiful robot,
and Shatter had omnidirectional wheels too, which I think is a really cool idea.
Right. Yeah, and so I've wanted to compete forever. I don't have time with running the company, unfortunately. But I've gone so far as to start mocking up a handful of designs in Fusion. I really want to make it happen. So, Bill, you want to compete? Contest is in August. Think we could throw together something?
I mean, Rusty, the robot Rusty, is proof that you can throw anything together.
That's true. Well, what was it? Not Blackjack. The Las Vegas team.
Jackpot.
Did
quite well.
Did very well.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I want you guys to know that the plan Harrison and I had going into this podcast was to only talk about BattleBots the whole time. So we have saved you that. But it is very exciting.
I couldn't contain myself because of how seriously you were taking that. Both of you, how seriously you were taking that conversation.
So what's funny is, I'm sure Harrison, you and Emily have the same conversation. We'll watch a fight. Brittany and I will watch a fight, and we'll have very intimate knowledge of these robots. But if he said he was going to try and go and control that fight, and he just really didn't, and he kind of let himself down. Or it's such a bummer when that robot, the flipper didn't seem to be working as well as it should have, and I think that's what let him down.
Oh yeah, well we'd watch a fight with Hydra, and I was like, watch what, and I'm like, strategy with Hydra. Now, I've never done this before in my life, so I'm like, this strategy. I know what I'm doing. But Hydra's a pneumatic flipper, right? So you got to get him to miss the first shot. That pump's got to build up pressure again. So their subsequent shots are a lot weaker. If you can get him to miss the first one, So we have the same conversation about that kind of stuff.
You know what that makes us, believe it or not? Sports fans. And this is my very first piece of sports memorabilia. It's signed.
Applies to going to a joust at a Renaissance fair. Is
absolutely
a very exciting sporting event in my opinion.
I've been to lots of Ren fairs, and I'll do the same thing when the two jousters go, and I'm like, nah, I see what he did wrong there.
Yep.
I've never even been on a horse.
Strategy. Yeah.
So do you guys find yourself pretty much superimposing your experience and just your natural tendency to make stuff over everything now? It's for me, it's prop making is now in existence, that then it's oh man, whether it's making BattleBots or tinkering with cars or this and that, it's oh my gosh, when I finally go back and start rebuilding my classic cars, all of that prop making, it's man, I can 3D scan, I can 3D print, I can do this, I can do that. It's how does that amalgamation all come together? And then where the LED's gonna go? No,
right? That's what Harrison's doing with his tiny van right now, right?
I said this to him the other day. I was so jealous to see you in a shop working on a car. I'm like, That sounds dreamy.
We
That is
were
my
having an
dream
ultimate
right now.
cosplay committee meeting, and Volpin put his laptop in the chassis of his minivan, and he conducted his part of the meeting.
It's
while
not a
he
minivan,
was-
it's a tiny van.
I'm sorry, a
It's
tiny
very
van.
tiny.
Yes, it's half the size of a minivan.
Right.
Yeah.
that
My
you
brother
had-
has a minivan that you can fit a 4x8 sheet of plywood in it. There's nothing
Oh,
mini
correct.
about it.
It's
Harrison's got a
Yeah.
teeny
minivan.
tiny van that you had cargo shipped over from Japan.
Yep, shipped from Japan.
And I think I talked to you on the phone for like 2 hours the day you were driving across all of Georgia to go to pick that up. Yes, a microvan, as Eric said in chat.
There we go. That's a good word for it.
All
I've
right,
got a
let's.
question
go.
that actually kind of relates to what we're talking about now. So for either or both of you, what is something that you're super proud of making or fixing that is not related to cosplay at all?
That's a great question. There's got to be. I have an answer for it.
I know both of you have like 3D printed something.
Yeah, I know. I've like a little thing around the house to fix. I've totally 3D
Right.
printed, but I just can't. I'm blanking.
Oh, I will shred anything in the house that breaks in the attempt to repair it. Oh, here's a good example. This right here. I'm going to pivot the camera for a second.
Literally something within eye shot of him. He's able to grab.
This is this stereo right here. If you guys can kind of see. This is a 1960 Zenith Stereo that we found at a thrift store. Actually, my parents found when they were thrifting one day. And sorry, I'm gonna make everybody yards here with the camera motions. I apologize. So like
This is what it's like to be Harrison, by the way, guys.
Yep.
Just
Yeah, so-
this shot.
So we
look at that.
repaired this. It came like they had it at this thrift store, and it was completely destroyed. All the finish was wrecked on it. The stereo was really crackly and garbage, and like all the cloth was sort of like covered in smoke stains, like cigarette smoke and stuff. And it was in really sad shape. So Emily and I took this and we restored the whole thing. We recovered it. I took the stereo out. Like rewired all of the bad connections in it. Right now it's hooked up to my gaming computer so that when I play video games at night, it comes through this 1960s stereo. And here is my favorite part of it. Hey Google, turn on the stereo.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So I've got
Wow.
my 1960s like stereo that recovered, refinished, oiled the wood, stained everything, and like it's hooked up to my smart home, so it's all set up there.
Now you're just flexing way too hard.
I have a thing actually. I just remembered, and it's a tiny thing, but I have a guitar amp that I bought in the early 2000s, and when I bought it, it was missing a couple of knobs. And just this year, I was like, I can make guitar or amp knobs, and I just 3D modeled and printed knobs and stuck them on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? Do you have anything like that?
I do, and my first trade was sewing, fashion design, fabric, costumes, things like that, and so getting into like fabrication was a new thing for me. And I moved into this house that I'm renting, and I was able to discover like my master bathroom toilet kept leaking, and I was able to figure out that there must be a crack somewhere in it, just the way my brain was able to figure it out. This is not particularly exciting or interesting, but I repaired and replaced a toilet for the first time without even looking it up.
All right.
Just by ordering one, and it really wasn't that hard. I thought this was something a master plumber would have to know how to do, right? But it's not hard at all. So I didn't, 3D print something or fix or I didn't hook it up to my Bluetooth or my Hey Google toilet type thing or anything. But I made
But now you got it.
functional toilet work in my house, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
I could have said something like, "Oh, I fixed a tear in a pair of pants that I made," but that's what tailors do.
Right. Of course you did.
Right. I mean, that's
right.
That's everyday stuff. Hoku,
Oh, man.
you got something for that question?
Well, when you get involved in 3D printing, you reach a point where you're like, I had this bug back in 5-6 years ago, because I got access to our university printers, and it was like, what can I 3D print to make my life better? Can it be a coat hook? Can it be a this? Can it be a that? And so like early on, it was like, oh, there's so much stuff you can create with this. But of course, that introduced problems, such as they were ugly a lot of the time. But getting creative and making coat hooks and stuff that looks like antlers and horns and like these fantasy elements, and making it so you can't even tell that it is what it is. That's something that I think is a fun part. It's like housing decoration, but it not being something you would expect. So that's the stuff for me. Obviously, like, I love making stuff, so it's a lot of the skills overlap, and I've got the automotive bug like Harrison does. And
Hoku, there's all kinds of parts in that van that are printed because like,
oh man, watching you do your
the blinker,
BMW,
the blinker cover,
BMW lens covers. Whew.
Yeah, those were awesome.
Well,
Hoku once like resin cast his arm with a nutsack where the tricep was. It's in his shop. There's a cast of his arm like this with a nutsack hanging off.
So for context.
You don't have to explain your art to me. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's
man,
art.
look, just own it.
Yeah, no, I'm on blast, so I got to explain. So I was the lab technician at UC Riverside when I was there as well, and there was somebody there who made a sculpture. I was taking the sculpture class with them too, and so she always asked for help, and she was always like, she was really ungrateful. And she was like angrily feminist, if that makes sense, where she wasn't trying to like bring equality. She was just angry. And she was really mean and rude to me just because I was a dude, right? And I was like, man, like, you make me feel like crap. And I'm sorry that you feel like crap. But so I made a response piece because I knew she was making a gigantic bloody tampon for a sculpture. And so I was like, all right, so if this is what you're doing, I'm going to basically cast my arm, and basically it was like, I feel like all I'm here is to basically lift and do heavy work for you. And I'm just a pair of balls. Like this is all I exist
balls,
as.
yeah.
So it was my response. And so I've got a life-size arm of my own that has a big, gigantic ball sack on it.
Yep. It is remarkable too.
Did you clay sculpt that, or did you just
buy
a pair of truck nuts and glue them on?
Epoxy sculpt, yeah. I what's super cool is alginate, even though it's got such a high water content, 300Q is so volatile that you can actually resin cast in alginate with.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy, and it works really well. It just boils all the water off, but the alginate turns into dust immediately.
Wow.
So
I can tell you what'll happen if you put 300 in alginate, which I did.
Because it gets so.
Why is this turning out so bad? I don't understand. Oh, that's right. Alginate's all water. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So moving on.
Do we have more questions? We're getting through these at a rapid clip.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So our first question, Atlas Crafts.
Wait, this is our first question?
Well, this is our first community question from chat. Today.
Cool.
Ready.
So Atlas Crafts asks, I just got a prop 3D printed by my friend, but the supports are not easy to get off. Do you guys have any tips for sanding ABS plastic?
Oh, I bet Harrison does.
Oh, yeah. I don't have it in front of me right now. One of the best things, let's see. If you're just sanding print lines, that's one thing. If you're talking about trying to get supports off, that's another. With supports, my preferred method after you kind of crack everything off is to get, I have these really, really fine wood chisels made for engraving, doing like really fine line work in hardwoods. And I like those. They're insanely sharp, and you have to keep them very sharp, just like any woodworking chisel. I like doing those because you can just sort of like shave the ABS away without having to try and sand it all off. One of the problems with running sandpaper across print lines, if these are your print lines, is you'll tend to sort of accentuate that as you go back and forth across them, and you'll just make the waving lines worse. Shaving them down with a really sharp wood chisel is a lot faster way to do it, and it evens the shape out really quickly. Another thing you can try is not using like a sanding drum on your Dremel for print line areas. That spins really fast. It soaks up a lot of heat because it's got that rubber disc on the interior, and then that'll just cause the plastic to melt around it and you'll ruin the sanding disc. At the shop, we use these small, not actually sure what the name of them is. They're like metal cutting wheels, or not wheels. They're more like metal sanding drums, and they've got like a series of what looks like blades across them.
Yep.
You know,
Are they rasps?
Huh?
Like little rasp?
Like little rasps. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can get them in various different grits, and that's basically like
carbide burr, right?
carbide burr. Thank you, burr bits.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, you can get them in various different grits, so that like rougher ones will have less blades on them, finer ones will have more. Those work really well for support material. As for the rest of it, our main trick for sanding print lines, especially on ABS, we'll start with a really, really rough sandpaper, like an 80 grit.
Yeah.
Our favorite is the 3M Stick It Blue 80 grit. Run that down, basically knock all the print lines off, and then we'll follow that up with a 2-part urethane primer. Our personal favorite is called MIPA, M-I-P-A. We really like that stuff. It's 4-to-1 mixture base to activator. When we throw another,
You said that was a urethane primer?
It's a urethane. Yeah, it's a German product. MIPA is actually, they're like, what am I thinking here? DuPont or any of the other paint producers. The rest of their stuff is, it's okay, but man, their primer, phenomenal. It levels out really well. It soaks in all the print lines, makes sanding super easy. With what we do at the shop, it's usually like 80 grit, fine grit sanding sponge, MIPA, one more pass, ready to mold. And we can turn around a print very quickly with that process.
Yeah, and since that's a urethane primer, you can also add some additional reducer to it and use it as a sealer primer as well, right?
You can, yeah. We've done that in the past. We have,
like if you're doing like a piss coat or something to see highs and lows.
You can go pretty high with the reducer on that. We've done a 4-to-1 to 4 before, and it's super thin. It settles out really, really nicely. It shrinks really well uniformly, so you'll get a really nice tight coat of paint on the whole thing.
Right.
They also make it in white, gray, and black, which is really great. If you're ever shooting chrome, you can just go black primer, gloss clear coat, then chrome afterwards, so you can skip one stage of paint.
You know what? I actually did this a while back, and it worked out great. But So Strong and UVO dye, it's urethane based. You can actually tint your primer with it.
Oh yeah,
so
we've done that. The gray won't get fully black. Also, be careful with the So Strong. Green and red will bleed back through top coat.
Ooh, yikes.
So yeah, don't ever use that in anything that you're planning on keeping. Or end use.
Yeah, I mean, green and red, like carbide or red oxide primer as a whole, just it bleeds through so much of your kind of like sealing coats anyway. So it's like definitely when I see people go to the store and they're working on props and they're getting like red oxide Rust-Oleum, I'm like, oh no, this is just going to be more work than ever. Like obviously Rust-Oleum's, it's got troublesome kind of components already, right?
Yeah, I hate Rust-Oleum.
I'm there with you, buddy. But yeah, that was a fun little jaunt into Paint 101.
Super technical painting.
Yeah, but it's so much fun, isn't it? I want everybody in chat, I'll put a link to it and you guys should check this out. But I found this fun tool not too long ago called a David 400 pen sander. And it's an oscillating pen sander. It doesn't require an external like power box for it. Super lightweight. It's got a bunch of wedges and stuff, and it's just like but I'll put it in chat and I'll send it to you guys separately. I need to get them to like support us or something. But yeah, Bill, did you have one?
I actually just bought a thing. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I bought some card scrapers that are usually used for woodworking. Ben Eady actually made a video about it recently, and he was using card scrapers to start to level out the layer lines. Haven't tried it yet, so caveats, haven't done it myself, but I got some card. It's just a flat sheet of metal with really sort of sharp-ish edges, and you hone it so it's got a burr, and that's usually used to like scrape wood nice and smooth.
Yeah,
but apparently people are using them on 3D prints, so I thought I'd give it a try. Nothing to report yet though. I haven't even taken them out of the bag. Got it yesterday.
Yeah, if I could just give an observation for you, Atlas. A lot of people don't think about it, but heat is kind of your enemy with 3D prints, and specifically the friction, like Harrison mentioned, like the drum pad getting super hot. And so what you have to do is be really careful to not introduce more work for yourself by just melting and softening that, because the moment that prick gets hot, it's going to expand and then it's going to cool down and contract. And now you're just creating even more ripples in that surface, even if they're little. So, and then Chris, you've got some experience with 3D prints recently, but do you
No,
do
I really
FDM
don't.
printing?
I have a resin printer. Like I said, I started in kind of textiles and leather, and I moved on to finally doing foam. My first ever foam build was the one that Harrison had his head between its legs.
Do you have to?
I'm just going to keep mentioning that. But
All right.
no, I have a resin printer, which I just use to make small little horns that I can make silicone molds of, and then make tons of copies with just quick curing 2-part resins, so that I can make lots of horns really, really fast.
Yeah, you can do flexible material in a hard mold, and that's something that's so fun about resin prints now is like, man, you can do prosthetic negative impression molds, right? Like, oh man, that's cool.
So that's how I made all like 440 little horns and tiny teeth and things all over that costume, was just with a resin printer and some smooth on products.
That's awesome.
I think I called Cullen Cosplay, who's in chat, saying, why is this not working with this air dry sculpting clay, because it had sulfur in it, and silicone does not cure around sulfur. So then I got a resin printer so I could do it properly.
All right. I've got another question if you guys are ready. So Big
ready.
Tuna Neil is asking, how much has Adam Savage had an effect on the trajectory of your careers?
Well, quite a bit, I would say, for me anyway.
Yeah.
I work with those guys, with the whole tested crew,
which
is super awesome. And I personally see a lot of parallels with like what he's done with, obviously he did Mythbusters, and I have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
There's some crossover there. But once I was sort of in the tested orbit, a couple things. One, everyone that works with them is awesome, like my kind of people. Everyone behind the scenes I get to work with. Gunther does most of the filming. Joey moved to LA, so he doesn't film much anymore, but he still does producing. And then Norm and I are super good buddies. They're all just wonderful people. When I got to work with them, like the two things. One, I felt very validated that I got to be a part of that. But also I was like, this is what I want my gang to be like, in my shop with my people.
Yeah.
Because we do a lot of, so like they produce video at a much more rapid clip than I do, and damn, Adam has been filming a lot. So a lot of parallels there, and I've been able to learn a lot, not just from Adam, but from everyone at Tested about producing content on the internet, producing maker content on the internet. I've got to. So, for example, one time I was visiting Tested, we were done for the day, and Gunther was cutting one of their videos. So I shadowed him. I'm like, how does Tested cut videos? And I shadowed him and learned a lot. And he was very, very nice with his time, because if you're editing a video and someone's over your shoulder, that is the most annoying thing ever. He's very kind to let me do that. So yeah, being caught in the Tested orbit has had a pretty, I would say, profound and positive impact on my trajectory.
That's awesome.
Cool.
And everyone still keeps confusing me for Frank. That just happens all the time.
Confusing you for who?
Frank
Polito.
Yeah, middle-aged guy with this kind of hat, glasses, and a beard.
A little bit of gray in the beard.
I appreciate you saying a little bit. That's very
just a handsome touch,
Frank actually, he hooked me up. Make-A-Wish contacted him about building a Arthas Lich King costume, and he was like, "Oh man, like I want to do that, but like the budget on that stuff is really low." And so he recommended they go to me. I can afford to do a one-off. Plus, I love it so much. I would have taken the job on for half the price, right? And so I've been in the midst over the last year kind of navigating coronavirus. And we did a self-quarantine last year so we could even go out and be around the kid that we were building it for.
That's
and
cool.
So I'm really excited because now that things are starting to open back up and whatnot, we can really begin the production of it. But Frank sent them my way. And so
Cool.
I got to be grateful for that one. But Harrison, did you have one, or you want to move on?
I mean, I think as a somewhat less social approach to this whole build, you know, the way that I do my work, the way that my studio operates, Adam is definitely an inspiration in terms of that jack of all trades builder, that you know, the DIY maker attitude. His sort of presentation of what is the speech he gives at Maker Faire every year, you know. Even though we don't pursue the same sort of social interaction at Volpin Props, I don't have a YouTube channel. I do very few videos, and we don't publicize our process quite as extensively. You know, you can't help but have some measure of inspiration from the man who kind of put it all out there with things like Mythbusters, about the process, about documentation, about comparison. You know, I really like the granularity with which he dissects his decisions.
Yeah.
I really appreciate
the economics.
Like, say what?
I was saying the economics, really.
Yeah, I mean, he approaches everything with a very critical eye as to you know, his preferred personal end goal. And one of the things I love, I was listening to his book about it, just about making in general, is you know, coming up with what works best for you and why it works best for you. You know, he a little while back, he had a big push for everybody or rather against drawers for storage. You know, this first order retrieval, you know, the tools kind of in front of you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of builders doing the same thing because he's an influential name, and I saw a lot of people hopping on that bandwagon. But part of me was like, you shouldn't do it just because he says so. You should do it because it works for you. And I feel like a lot of people kind of missed that. And I'm not trying to be critical, but like one of the things that he extols is, you know, having your shop, having your space, having your work for you. His cave versus, for instance, Jamie Heineman, M5 Studios, you know, set up very differently, because you have a shop in which one person works and a shop in which dozens of people work. If you went into my garage right now and compared it with my actual studio, worlds apart. Nobody could find anything in my garage. I'm the only one who does anything in there.
Yeah.
But we have, you know, 10 freelancers at a time, sometimes in my other studio, so it's got to be accessible.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that I really love. You know, obviously the end product, the cool build, the fun videos, all that, but getting into the mindset and kind of dissecting the how and why, that's the thing that inspires me personally.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me personally, just watching Mythbusters, watching Brant, watching, you know, Jamie, watching Adam, so much of what really attracted me, especially to Adam and especially to Grant, was the fact that they made it super acceptable to be the person that I was. You know, it was like, cool, this is not just like, I'm not just the strange weirdo that's obsessed about XYZ. It's cool to be super fascinated by making necessarily or making things rather than just like being social and whatnot, because I wasn't a very social person growing up. And that was the thing that it did for me, is it just cemented and kind of proved to me that the person that I was becoming had a place in the world. And that's something that's really exciting, to realize that others have succeeded where you might have been told that you would just fail. And I think a lot of us are realizing more and more through this community and through this type of work that there is a place for us. There is a way to succeed. And a lot of it does come down to hard work, and it does come down to positioning, especially. But I think that, you know, individuals like Adam is a perfect primer to expose people to how you might start that process. And so subsequently is the tutorials, whether it's books that you guys have made or through tutorials on YouTube. So that's how I view it. It's nice to feel validation in my aspirations, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. Before you get to the next thing, something really quick. I'm seeing a lot of very technique-based questions showing up in chat. And I know Bill and Harrison could answer those questions all week long. And I don't want to diminish those, because there's a lot of valid questions. But before this did end, I did want to make sure that not just, Hoku and myself were able to kind of get into this, but for the audience and the people watching this either live or recorded got to maybe feel like they got to know you guys a little bit better as people, not necessarily just artists, because a lot of people would admit that they look up to you as artists, of course, but and don't worry, I'm not going to ask how did you get into prop making, because that's not where this is going. But where this is going is more of I'm personally interested in every human on Earth struggles with something personally, within family, relationships, socially, whatever it might be. But I wanted to ask each of you, what's something that either you've had to overcome on a personal level to be able to continue to achieve what you do, or what's something that you continue to struggle with that is something that you have to kind of live with, cope with, and continue running your operation the way that you do. Whoever,
Yeah, I have a good one.
Yeah.
I am extremely impatient.
Okay.
Like, very impatient. And I work filming projects, and my wife films me. And when things take a long time, I get impatient. And I have this dynamic, right?
Okay.
And if that impatience leaks out, it doesn't just ruin my work.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean,
think
like
we can all see what you're saying there, right?
Yeah. That's something that I have, especially when we shifted from me filming myself in all our projects to Brittany filming. We did that because we both believe the end product is better. With another person holding the camera. As we were making that shift, I was like, I can't just demand that the camera person be where I need that person to be at.
Right.
There needs to be more diplomacy there.
Right.
And that's something I still struggle with. Like I still catch myself in moments feeling an incredible urge of impatience. And I have to fight that in the moment, because if I let it escape, it ruins the rest of the day.
Can I ask, do you know where that comes from? What drives that impatience? Is there
I think I am just personally a little bit impatient by my own nature, but from 2012 to 2015, I ran the company completely by myself. I did all the filming myself, all the editing myself, I did all the making myself. And I got really fast at it. And when we shifted to a different system that was slower, even though I knew objectively I like it better, the end product, because it was slower, I struggle to fight that thing going, it would be faster if I just did it myself, right? If I did it myself, then we'd be done and we could move on. But I fight that in my brain. Like, nope, be patient, do it the right way. You're going to have a better end product, and you're going to have a better marriage as well. So that's the thing I just struggle with all the time.
Yeah, there's also more of you to go around then, though. You know what I mean? And that's something that I know I struggle with, is just like trying to delegate tasks or just give work to other people, and not just feel like, man, if I had just done this, it would have been done faster, or it would have been done the way I wanted it. And it's like, I have to give somebody else an opportunity to learn how to do something that's up to my standards, because then there's more of me to go around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Harrison's a wonderful case of that success, or
Right.
that kind of, transition still working. Like
Nice.
I know you.
I'm
work
glad
harder
that's
than-
how it looks from the outside.
right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We're all good artists at hiding how we really feel and act.
The inner
but-
madness that exists.
But no, I don't necessarily want Harrison to just echo what Bill said. Is there something different that maybe you struggle with as a person, not necessarily as an artist, but that affects your work and affects how you engage and interact with the world?
Yes, I think every human has a level of complexity that they struggle with certain things. I will say that my more I'm not quite sure how to phrase this. That is a personal question, and I think you and I have had a conversation in which I'm not one to open up very much to to a lot of people. I'm a little closed off.
Oh, and this is at your
and,
own comfort level, by the way. I'm not trying to crack the egg open or anything.
Yeah, and if we want to talk business, we can talk business. We can talk about the shop. We can talk about the work. My personal issues are my personal issues. I do struggle with a few of them, and I work on them constantly.
Yeah.
Insofar as it navigating into the career side of things, hiring on artists, hiring on people who are up and coming, who don't necessarily know how a studio works, who don't know the processes, has been difficult. Especially hiring people that are, 10 years younger than me. They're in a different place in their life. They're in a different place personally, creatively, technically, whatever. And when I first got employees, I had some issues, as sort of passed down from my father with my temper. If things went poorly, if we got kind of behind on things, if we were, if somebody messed something up pretty badly, I wouldn't scream at anybody. I wouldn't, be confrontational, but I wasn't treating them correctly. I was being more emotional than somebody in a managerial position has any right to be. I'll put it that way. And that was something that took me a while to kind of to get better at. And learning how to be a manager. God, I think a lot of people will, especially now, in post-capitalist society, people look at managers and like, all you do is push email around them. Man, it sucks to manage people. It sucks to manage artists. To tell somebody who has poured their creative talent into something, that's not good enough, or you need to be creative faster, or you need to be, creative more precise. It's hard, and we as artists can be a little bit more, a little bit more sensitive, and so delivering that critique is also a problem, and it's that is something that is harder than anything I've ever done in prop making. Give me diagnosing chemical interactions in a chroming system, or paint screw ups, or mold making issues. I will do a 16-part silicone mold that's the size of a school bus before I do another employee review. But if I'm running a company, I got to do it, and I got to learn how to do it. That's been hard. I'm still bad at it. I'll be honest. I'm working on it though.
I've got a follow-up to that. I did want to add, I've got a degree in arts management, ironically enough. I don't think I'm very good at it, but I will say I've got a couple observations, and first and foremost, prop making, for example, it's such a linear skill. You read, you educate, you get better, you make mistakes, you get better, right? So on and so forth. It's a linear scale where the amount you put into it is the amount you get in return. And the thing about management is it's not linear. You can do all of the right things and still everything go wrong. And you can feel like you're making the right choices and they just don't unfold the way it's a very niche thing to be good at management. And then when you finally learn how to be good, it evolves over time still. And so seeing how you've succeeded with Volpin props has definitely been it's been inspirational for me, because it's like, this is the same way I feel about Adam is, hey, somebody like me who's got a similar mindset and temperament. Because Bill, hey, I'm impatient as hell. I've got one eye, and it's like I hate this sometimes, but it's like, gotta calm down, right? And just developing the ability to figure out how to not repeat all those mistakes. It's pretty unique, that's for sure. So
in the same sense, I think that like we're all continuously trying to improve our skills. That's just human. That's just the nature of life. That's the human condition. You've got to get better at management. You got to get better at taking care of yourself and taking care of your loved ones and all that other kind of thing. So we're all human. We're all just trying to fix stuff.
I like that both of you had a very kind of emotional response to the question that I asked, which was kind of what I was aiming for, but just the fact that yes, we are artists, we are creators, but there is a huge level of emotional attachment we have to our, not just what we make, but our process. And Bill, you talked about that. Volpin, you definitely did too, especially as it relates to other people being involved. And something that's really interesting is, you know, we're doing a podcast, and this is kind of under the brand of the contest that we're running in May. And all of the like all of us have judged a contest before. All of us have seen competitors, especially makers, cosplayers, get emotional about what they've made, about how they're judged, about how they rank in terms of skill among other people. And it's a very delicate topic, because essentially you're critiquing, you know, the public or the community who might not know you as well as your employees or whatever. So this isn't necessarily a question. It's just more of, I appreciate you guys as judges because of your, and I think a lot of people have picked up on the years of technical skill, knowledge, things that you've taught yourself. And I hope that anyone who is competing trusts not just both of you, but our entire panel of judges, because we take your work seriously too. We care about what you've put into what you've done. And I know Bill is studying the cup right now, looking at,
Yeah, I'm checking everyone out.
how many judges are on that actual mug right there. But
Gotta be 20.
we've all been in every competitor's position. We've all started, you know, there. And we don't want to forget that either. And that's a big reason that we continue to do what we do, why we keep teaching, why we keep doing contests, why we keep judging. If anyone else has anything kind of along those lines, I'd be happy to have you jump in right now.
I think we're pretty well covered.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to ask a question from Samir.
All right.
So this one's actually for Harrison. He wants to know, when you were starting Volpin props, like, did you use your own money, or were you kind of trying to figure out if there was somebody who wanted to partner up with you?
Oh, no, I use my own money. As a matter of fact, I never took out any loans or had any financing until we moved into our new studio in 2018, and moved from the smaller studio into the larger studio, that is. I was actually going to bring this up earlier. I brought this guy out, my Valkyrie, because Bill, when I met Bill, I'd quit my job and I was building a set of these for BioWare to promote the launch of Mass Effect 3. And I quit my job. This was kind of a big point for me, because I was like, yeah, you know, got this big industry gig, paying a bunch of money for it. You know, finally making it. Still working out of my garage, also. You know, still just a one-man show. Me doing everything, and really making it. Also, I would paint stuff in my backyard on a stretch of PVC pipe that was just hanging in the middle of a neighborhood. I'm really glad the kids in my neighborhood didn't just steal any of my guns and the, you know, space guns. I dropped these off, you know, shipping out to San Diego Comic-Con, and on my way home, I was sitting at a stoplight. I was driving. At the time, I had a 2001 BMW station wagon, and I'm like about to take a left in my neighborhood, and my car, I just felt this like ka-tunka, and then all of a sudden it was running like, and I know a lot about cars, and I was like, that's expensive.
No.
And this was, you know, literally like 4 weeks after I quit my job, and I'm like, okay, so limped the car home, and it ended up, it had dropped one of the exhaust valves. The retaining pin had broken. And so spring went up into the head, valve went down to the motor, piston just, so had to have a head job, complete head rebuild.
Did you fully throw a rod through it, or was
no,
it
no. The bottom end of the motor was fine. Which
okay, good.
The piston just smashed the living shit out of the valve a billion times.
Yeah.
So it ended up being $6,000. It ate my entire finances.
No.
Yeah.
But you know, throughout I say that as a way to sort of illustrate one of the things I've always been in this entire endeavor is extremely cautious.
Yep.
I put a lot of money aside. You know, I make sure to invest in the company in a way that I know I'll get returns out of in the future. Money goes into high-end tools, so I don't have to buy a new sander every year. Money goes into, processes and elements that'll make my job easier and faster. Things like back in the day, pressure casting chambers, really, you know, good sandpaper, nice chisels, that kind of thing. You know, before, when my assets weren't financial, what I had was time. And so I would work 14 hours a day, every day for like 3 years. And that's how I funded the company. That's how I started it up. And that's where the investment came from.
Yeah.
And I did that out of the garage for a long time. So, you know, my taxes were simpler because I could claim a lot of the house. It was just me. I took a lot of deductions, you know, kind of kept building and building and building. And I did it out of the garage from 2009 to the middle of 2013. And that's when I finally moved to do another shop. And when I did that, I shared that studio space with another kind of up and coming business person, Kathy Jones, from God Save the Queen Fashions. And, you know, again, we kind of built up and we kept things small. And I never took a big bite out of this. I didn't start out going like, you know, I'd really like to make some props. I'm going to get a 6,000 square foot workshop, full power medic tools. I'm going to get a, you know, $12,000 spray book, you know, just gradually building up. One of the biggest things I can say to help this is there's I'll say two things. And these are personal points of mine that I tell establishing artists. First off, definitely turn down a job if you don't think you're going to make the deadline, because it's way better to not take the job and to not deliver late,
right?
And it's better to not have the money than to have people out there that want to hire you. No, you won't deliver on time. You know, they'll come back to you sometime in the future. It'll happen. You know, with Blizzard, I turned them down in 2010. And they didn't ask for something again until 2017. Took 7 years, but they came back. That's the one thing. The other thing is know when, and this is a contentious point, but know when to give away your time. And sometimes in order to make a deadline, sometimes in order to appease a client, sometimes in order to get your foot in the door with somebody, you're going to have to work a lot harder at something that you might be able to do a lot faster or a lot better if you had more time. You know, you're going to have to kind of underpay yourself a little bit to establish yourself. That does make financial sense when you're starting out, and maybe not for a longer period of time, but in order to become established, there are times in which you will, you know, kind of have to eat that financially in order to establish your name as somebody who can deliver.
Right.
And on that point too, something I did quite frequently, and I do whenever I can, is if something I was following had some kind of charity event where they're like auctioning off stuff, and I have a prop, like actually one of the first times I hung out with Harrison was in Seattle at the Child's Play charity dinner. And I was making Mass Effect guns, so I cast another one and painted it and contributed it to the charity dinner, and it got auctioned off for some money. Not nearly as much as Harrison's gravity gun, but we're not going to talk about that. But one of the things I did that one of several things, I was a very active member in the Tested community. When they did a charity event, I did that. I made a Tested themed blaster and I mailed it to them, and they auctioned it off on their live stream for the charity. And I mean, it was you don't have to have a good reason to help a charity. I mean, you just might as well do it.
Right.
But wonderful side effect was that Will and Norm knew who I was after that point.
Cool.
And then a year or two after that, I was at San Diego Comic-Con, and they were there, and I had lunch with them, and you know, just over the years we just became chums.
Yeah.
But giving away my work for free like that was one of the ways that I made sure people knew who I was.
It's kind of interesting how you talk about building slowly with tools, equipment, materials, things like that, learning different techniques. But that also kind of happens socially, as Bill is talking about right now, where if you stick with it, you're going to get more and more tools and more, you're going to learn more, but you're also going to meet more people along the way. You're going to get more connections. You're going to have more fun. You're going to have more friends. And you're going to have more things that you get to do, which is that for me is the really fun part. And that's kind of more what I do now is more networking and event organization than actual production. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out, Bill.
I mean, all of this is an investment. And
Yeah.
It's easy to look at, somebody like Bill, who has 700,000 YouTube subscribers and a wall full of cool stuff behind him in a big studio, and and say like, man, I want to do that. And then 6 months later, going like, man, I'm trying really hard, but it's not happening. Adam Savage's studio is the result of his existence in the special effects industry for 30 some odd years,
Right. Yeah.
Maybe 35, etc., whatever years.
Yeah.
Yep.
The cumulative total of my efforts have taken 10 years full time plus another 2.5 in my off hours. Takes a while.
Yeah.
And to the original question about financing, I was approached by somebody kind of early on in the career to contribute and offer, an angel investor kind of thing. And I worked up a big quote, kind of pie in the sky, big numbers. This is a good friend of mine, also one of my earlier clients who owns a website called xe.com. And his name's Steve Dangler, really cool guy, just multimillionaire, incredibly generous, super genuine, gamer type dude. And he was like, what do you need to get off the ground? Let's get you a studio. Let's get this. And I'm really glad I didn't do that. I had some other advice from my accountant at the time. That was basically like, kind of the more suspicious angle of like, hey, you don't want to do that. You're gonna have to sign away part of your company. But what I would have ended up with was a shop, like a huge shop filled with expensive tools. And I wouldn't have had any clients, I would have had like, they got this, I had table saw, bandsaw, I got this joiner router, I got 3D printers, a paint booth, cool. I don't know how to do maintenance on any of those machines. I don't have the clients necessary to do this. And as soon as the money runs out from the investing, I'm not gonna be able to keep this going.
Right.
So I kind of hermit crab grew into the shell that I needed.
And I'll point out, you made that rifle, that Mass Effect rifle, with like a scroll saw.
Yeah, no, this is PVC and ABS, or not ABS, styrene. This is scratch built. This is all hand done. No 3D printers. No, and like I made all of this on one tool for the most part. And it takes longer for sure than it would to resin print something like this in the day. This was also 2011, so resin printers didn't exist back then. But don't overstretch for real, and having that big pile of money at the front, man, I feel like a lot of people go bankrupt because they have too much money at the start.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the value of money and how to really like value your resources. Something I know about you, Harrison, is for the longest time you would buy equipment that was required for a job and allocate a certain amount of that job's price towards that equipment, so you could continuously grow the shop in a way where it was paying for its growth.
Yep.
And I think that was a brilliant idea. It's something that, working within your means and making sure that the resources you're spending all add up in the end versus just being a weight. The big problem with having a bunch of equipment, like one of my biggest regrets actually is buying my CNC machine. I don't have the right facility to use it as much as I want. And it's not the easiest machine. I wish I had 5 more 3D printers in its place, right? And I think that the burden of it, though, is it still takes up so much room. And so, when if you had taken that investment, for example, and ended up with all that equipment, you have to house it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a balance between having workspace that is working for you and then having dead weight that's just sitting there. You don't have to necessarily have this, 4,500 square foot shop where you've got its own designated corner for every single piece. That's what's cool about Adam's shop, is it's something that's grown with his life.
Although it's smaller than my shop, I will say.
Is it really? Yeah. It doesn't look big.
It's not terribly big.
Yeah.
No.
Um,
My shop is 100 square feet smaller than Harrison, so I've got to grab my wins where I can get them.
all right.
Well,
How big is your guys' shops?
We're like 2,300 square feet, I think.
Mine's 24, but at the end of next month, we're knocking the wall down between ours and the one next to it, so we'll be at 48 soon.
That's awesome.
yeah.
And I'm gonna expand my spray room to have a second spray booth. I'm gonna have my own office. I have never had so far. Like my desk right now is just like in the front hallway, and I'm really looking forward to. It's also like right next to the bathroom, right? So like I'll just be sitting there like 3D modeling or something. I'm like, yep, somebody's peeing. Cool. Just really just right there.
I should really put a door on that room, man. This is awkward.
Look, man, I'm not made of money.
That's
I just
the way he runs.
We only buy the stuff we need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put the shower curtain across there and
We got a bead curtain. It's fine.
eat quietly.
Something talking about money. Volpin is the only prop maker I know that has a $1 million price tag on one of his listed items on his website.
$1 million? Wait, what do I? That's $1 million.
The Daft Punk helmet that you don't want to make.
Oh no, it's only 25 grand.
Oh, I thought it was $1 million.
Yeah, he would never do that.
$25,000. What a deal then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Forgive
Much
me.
less than $1 million.
They're setting a price that's stupid money, and then they're setting a price that no one will ever pay.
Maybe that
Somebody
was a
might
conversation I
actually
had with
buy.
you in person.
Yeah, actually, Emily's sister out in LA, she has a very specific job. She monitors patients' brain waves when they're undergoing surgery.
Wow.
And she was at a place recently, and there's a brain surgeon that was talking about the Daft Punk breakup, and she's like, "Oh yeah, my sister's husband makes Daft Punk helmets," and he's like, "Oh, does he sell them?" And she was like, "Yeah, I think it's on his website, it's 25 grand." So like, I'm like, brain surgeon, they might be able to pull the trigger on this.
Right? Exactly.
Brain surgeon
Stupid money, but doable.
Yeah, right. I really don't want to do
Alright.
that though.
No, it says on your website that you don't want to do it, which is
No,
why
I
the
don't.
price is so high. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions here, but as Chris said, they're kind of fall into that. Hey, how would you craft this? And I
I tell you what, let's do it. But Bill and I only get 10 seconds to answer, and we'll trade off.
Awesome.
Okay.
Oh, this is great.
Okay.
I love
Alright.
this.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
10 seconds, like bam, bam, bam. Let's knock them out.
I'll go first. I'm
Alrighty.
ready.
Well, so the next one is for Bill. This
perfect.
is, I don't know if you can answer this. Are you looking forward to your silicone build next month?
Yeah. Oh, it's perfect that you brought that up. Real quick, I'm doing a workshop. I'll put a link in the chat. SiliconSJ.com. I think there's 150 seats available. You can go sign up, and I'll live
10
stream me
seconds.
putting a thing together, and you can follow along. Awesome.
All right. Actually,
Oh, I didn't put it in the chat because I'm not logged in. Crap.
That's fine.
I
That's
like
fine.
how
That's fine.
Volpin was actually counting with fingers during that.
This next one is from Skylar Summercrest 23 asking in chat once again for Bill. Thank you first of all for being there. What is the best way to all fairy lights to keep them on? I'm assuming, what's the best way to install fairy lights to keep them on? I'm using for her Viperian magical element. Plan was clear tubing wrapping around arms or wire. Also looking for better ideas. I think she's just basically trying to figure out how to light up her Viporion like magic element. I don't know if that's like a
All right, 10
Hydra ball or
seconds.
something.
Go.
I don't I don't think I can do this in 10 seconds. Hot glue.
Oh no! Oh no! Fairy lights, hot glue, blue cellophane,
said
wrap it together.
Hot
Hadoop
glue.
pin.
He didn't
Oh,
even
no.
say like soldering
There's
iron or.
Okay, I'll do 10 seconds.
Okay,
real
here we
quickly.
Go for
Okay.
it.
There's a really great cellophane that you can get on Amazon. We use it for casting inside some esports trophies to give it like an iridescent thing. It's basically just a colored foil, and you can also get it in color shift. So check out color
Oh,
shift
nice.
cellophane foils.
All right, that was about
Alrighty.
13 and a half seconds. Not bad.
Good.
All right, so Starfold asked on Discord, what is the best way to cast complex shapes without a printed structure? I'm assuming that they are referring to how, Harrison, you use a lot of 3D mother molds when you're doing it.
Oh, that tinfoil thing where you make a tinfoil sculpture, cover it in masking or duct tape, and then make a pattern on it. I learned that from
Right.
you, Bill.
So for pattern making, was the question about resin casting?
What is the best way to cast complex shapes without a printed structure? So
Okay.
I think this is for Harrison and how he does
Okay.
3D printed
Ah,
mother
yeah.
molds.
Okay.
There we go.
What you need to look up is traditional matrix mold making. I actually have an entry on my blog. It's taken down right now, but you can Google search it for the Cursed Dragon molds. Basically, it's a clay sculpture covered in epoxy. Take the epoxy off, take the clay out, fill it with silicone.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Also, I will say I absolutely loved doing that 3D printed mother mold process.
Oh man,
that made my life so much easier. Just a couple little drain valves, little boop, 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 clay, clay, clay. Haha, look at that. It's done. It all fits. All right. Next one is from Astronaut Shadow on Discord.
Big bills.
Do you have a favorite little to unknown product that you use? This one might be something you both answer because it's probably quick.
Oh, geez. I don't know. I talk about everything I use on the internet constantly.
Well, you have 10 seconds to figure out what it is.
I'll start. I love sanding sponges. And what
Awesome.
I mean is there's a rubbery sponge material that you can use with sandpaper to help clean it, especially if you're using like a lower cost primer, like a rattle can primer that's really wet. This will help clear your sandpaper out. Also, make sure you get cloth back sandpaper.
Okay, there is a tool that you can get for assembling or for disassembling and doing maintenance on cell phones. It is a small plastic trowel. It's got a point at one end and a flat plane at the other. It is the perfect thing for claying up molds. You can buy a 10-pack on Amazon for like $10.
Is this like a cell phone pry bar?
Yeah, it's like cell phone pry bar.
Yeah.
It's basically just it's like a black chopstick with like a little flat end on one side. We have hundreds of them at the shop. We use them for everything.
My favorite thing is temporary spray adhesive, otherwise known as basting spray, because I use it for so many things in all kinds of different projects. That's one of my favorite little secret tools.
Oh, good. Bill, did you have one pop up?
No, I just everything I can think of, I've made a video about.
Gotcha. Okay. So the next one
Look up
is
of his
from
800 videos on YouTube and you'll find it.
Yeah, what I will say is a lot of your questions, if you guys have them, I'm sure a lot of them have been answered as well on YouTube, subsequent, forums and whatnot.
That's good.
All right. So next one is actually from Chris Talk's brother, David. So D-Talk Ultimate asks, I have a question about tie-dye. Do you recommend printing first and then dye, or dye first and then print? Asking for UnitedSchoolsAmerica.com.
Don't know any.
I've never tie-dyed anything in my life.
Neither.
I think I did in summer camp once. I would imagine tie-dyeing first and then screen printing after would probably be better.
I agree. I don't think you want to basically have any dye material permeate into the cotton before you're printing to it, because you might have worse adhesion, and then that silk screen might come off. So you probably want to print it first.
You'd be dyeing your silk screen.
Silk screen it's latex anyway most of the time, so it's very rubberized and durable. It's not going to get dyed.
Yep.
Maybe, and clock.
Yep. Everyone in chat has already answered
I wasn't
this question
counting.
too. Yeah.
All right. I think that is most of the questions, if not all of them, that were asked by chat.
Awesome.
To kind of close things. What, Sam? Oh, there was more added.
His director is speaking with him right now.
I'll point out, if anyone has a technique question for me, you can tweet at Chinbeard on Twitter is my Twitter handle. Anytime, I'll be happy to answer you.
Yeah, same. If anybody has a technique question for me, you can tweet at Chinbeard on Twitter.
You guys are both.
You know what?
You guys are both great
there's
at
three
responding
questions.
to people.
There's three questions, and I think they're good ones. So,
Okay.
All right.
Here's the first one. Weird Sister wants to know how interested you guys would be in returning to a UK con if you were invited after things open back up.
Yeah. I went to London Super Comic Con and it was awesome. I had such a really great time. I would totally go back.
Yeah, definitely. I had a bunch of international invites in 2020, and obviously they all disappeared.
Figure.
So, yeah, it provided schedule permitting. Yeah, definitely.
Something on that note is Ultimate Cosplay, as we are now an official LLC and company, is we do plan on boothing at cons, and one of the ones on our radar is MCM London, which would be great to be able to booth at that con.
I think it's in the same space as Super Comic Con, and it's a really, really cool convention space. Cool. It's very new.
Yeah,
I think they made it for the Olympics.
Yeah, I've got some connections with Diana knows a lot of people out in London that do the cons out there because their mom lives out there.
Cool. Yeah.
Flagon, I think that's a bit of a private question. And I'm not gonna ask that one.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
curious what
next
it is,
one.
but I'll ask you after.
Okay. Joke question. What do you love most about chatting, Chris?
Oh,
Don't have to answer this one.
you don't have to answer that.
I'm glad that you guys are doing a podcast, and
Yeah.
I don't have to. I can just be a guest on it. I
Gotcha.
know I do appreciate that. We used to do a live stream all the time, and we don't really. Live streaming cuts my day right in half when I'm trying to film
Right.
stuff, so we end up not
Right.
doing it very often. But I'm glad you
Yeah.
guys are, and I appreciate that.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've learned more from just picking, individuals like you guys' brains than
Mm-hmm.
ever before. Harrison, did you have something you love about Chris or I? Or Bill?
We got to get all touchy feely here. I am, as I've mentioned before, not a social creature. At least not so far as many other people in the community are. So I'm endlessly appreciative of your efforts to support the community in creating a thing like this. It's a monumental amount of work, and something that I would never attempt to do, but is so necessary right now. So I think you guys are the perfect people to pull it off. Simultaneously, in the same way that I wish I had all the time in the world to teach the stuff that I know. I've always loved Bill's approach. His very ratatouille gusto, everyone can prop make
Yes.
vibe. It's one that I endorse as well. I just I don't have the same sort of ability to put together the tutorial type videos that Bill does. So as people who are ambassadors of goodwill in the community, you guys you're doing a great.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Harrison, you just gave me a great idea for a Dragon Con costume.
That gave you an idea for
The sign, like the Gusto sign, like that. I'll
Uh-huh.
just be standing there with a piece of foam. Everyone can cosplay.
Everyone
Oh,
can
man.
prop make. Yeah.
How insane is the next Dragon Con going to be?
Oh man.
When it's
Yeah.
safe,
Oh.
mind you. When it's
Which may
safe.
not be this
Absolutely.
year, but we'll
Right.
see.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
there is a question we ask every guest that I forgot about until right now, and I'm
Yeah.
going to ask right now for both of you.
All right.
What
I'm ready.
and you can make this 10-second answers if you want. I don't care. What are your turn-ons and turn-offs with cosplay and or prop making?
It can just be one of them.
It doesn't have to be like sexualized. Just
For example, I
Anti-
hate cheap shoes.
Anti-Warbler.
Oh,
Actually, I have
man,
nothing
yeah.
against Warbler, but
That's a
I've legitimately never used Warbler.
Me neither.
We bought a sheet of it like 6 years
No,
ago.
that's not true.
It is complete. It has never been
It's
touched.
still there.
I've never even tried
So
it.
I guess that's a turn-off is Warbler.
Sure.
Okay. What about do you have a turn on?
Um,
What gets your heart beating, Bill?
boy, I like walking into a shop when the night before, when you finished, you put everything away, you laid out what you were working on, turn the lights off, and then when you come in the next morning and the shop is ready to go,
Yes.
that is such a good feeling.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
All right, Harrison, do you have anything?
Let's see. I'm trying to frame this in terms of like costume contest judging. So I think definite turn off would be the word My Mini Factory or Thingiverse. When somebody rolls in and they're like, I downloaded this off of Thingiverse and I sanded it, and I'm like,
Okay.
And I'm not saying that everybody needs to 3D model all of their stuff. Obviously, that's a high bar. But I've seen a lot of costumes come in where people, that's their only thing, it's full, and they're like, here's my 3D print, and I bought this kit off of Etsy, So turn-offs are definitely print lines and Thingiverse. I'd say my turn on is really well diffused LEDs. A panel that is illuminated without a bulb
How
hotspot.
is this?
That's a good one.
Is this
Yeah.
acceptable?
I like that answer because it's
Exactly,
hard
yeah,
to do
just
and it looks so satisfying.
A
When you
nice
see
soft glow.
Yeah.
You know what?
Um,
I'm there with you, man. Diffusion acrylic is the greatest thing. Like an acrylic that diffuses really well. Ugh, great.
I learned the wonders of Plastizote because of participating in the Punish Props Secret Santa Christmas thing a couple
Oh,
of years
yeah?
ago, where I made
The Prop Tart Secret Santa?
yeah, I made a giant like 4-foot tall poison gas lamp using all it was wonderful.
Cool.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I don't know if you did that last year, but bring it back.
No, they didn't do it. Yeah,
Bring it back.
The Prop Tarts run the whole thing. I have nothing to do with it.
You
Yeah,
have
it was
to talk
probably
to the
just
Prop
a
Tarts.
concern last year. I've got one thing kind of I wanted to tell you guys earlier about the contest that's kind of unique and interesting is, yeah, we've got like a really large judging pool, obviously. But one of the things that I experienced last year that was different and unique, and I enjoyed it a lot, is what you as judges are going to see when you're judging is identical to what the audience gets to see. And so a lot of times I've noticed that there's kind of a disconnect potentially when judging, where being up close, seeing how, certain things are finished, seeing how it, the whole prejudging process unfolds. A lot of times as judges, we see certain things that the audience doesn't. And so what's kind of cool here is we're going to have the exact same level playing field that the audience has. And hopefully that's congruous, I believe it will be. It was last year.
It was.
So, I'm sure people will find something to.
I'm sure there's always going to be that, but it's definitely something that I think is kind of cool about how we're doing it. And then the final question, of course, is, you guys have any questions for us?
Are you planning on watching next year's BattleBots season or not?
Dude, I'm planning on binging old school BattleBots. Now, it's funny. I love to binge old competition shows. Like the old school Japanese Iron Chef is one of my favorite awful, wonderful TV shows
So
ever,
good.
right?
Yeah.
Hiroyuki Sakai, right? Iron Chef.
I like the Ultimate Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Yes.
That was one of my favorite shows growing up ever.
Yeah. But yeah. So absolutely, to answer your question, what about you, Harrison?
So you guys have both competed in a fair number of costume contests, right?
Yep. Well,
I've competed in one.
You only competed in one.
Oku did once, and he won.
He won
Best in Show.
TwitchCon and then he retired.
Yep.
Smart man.
I love that.
Bill was a judge for that too.
I was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
One and done.
Yeah.
You were.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
I-
It's funny, Bill. It's like, I tell everybody, I was like, I came like humbling in. I'm like, oh, hello, friends. And it was like such a fun job.
And then,
It's-
I've competed twice at that same event. Bill judged me the first year, and then Harrison judged me the last time I competed there. So you've both judged me. And then last year I got to be a judge for TwitchCon for their virtual one. So
Oh, yeah.
all of us have been a judge for TwitchCon now.
That's awesome.
Which is funny because they're sponsoring our contest this year.
Hey.
Anyway,
phenomenal.
Harrison, sorry, we interrupted you.
Sorry.
Well, the question was predicated on being at a number of different competitions, and so
I have competed in a lot of different things, just not exclusively cosplay, if that helps.
What's the weirdest question that has been asked of you by a judge? Barring the one that Talk is going to bring up again.
I wasn't going to go there again. Yeah. Because you didn't ask me a question while you were doing what you were doing.
Doing what I was checking your costume out. Why you gotta leave it open-ended like that,
Hoku,
man?
you go first.
Doing what I was doing.
I know what you were doing. Yeah, Hoku, you go first. What's the weirdest question I was asked while being judged?
No, you go first. I need a second to think about this one,
I
Chris.
wouldn't say any of the questions were weird. I mean, they're all just very technical, or like, how did you I guess the weirdest question. Oh, okay, and this is weird for a different reason. Harrison asked me when he was judging me, how did you do your LED lights? Did you build your own brain, or did you use pre-made brains or kits? And that's not a very weird question. It's a pretty straightforward question. The answer was I did buy pre-made brains because I only had 2 months to make my costume. But the reason it was a weird question is because a month before that, I didn't know how to solder. I'd never wired anything. I'd never done anything. So the fact that Harrison Krix of Volpin Props was asking me that specific question blew my brain, because I couldn't believe that I was at, it just happened so quickly. From never making anything out of foam to being asked that question by that particular person in that particular venue was a very accelerated, I didn't really grow into that. I didn't get time to think about that. So it was a very kind of blinding experience in a very good way. So that's my answer.
Okay, I like that.
I'm gonna go with just a weird question that it gets asked all the time in association with cosplay and competitions. And I've had this asked while I was judging. And it was, I had my LED eyeball in, and I get this, like I said, a lot, and people are just like, isn't that really bright in your eye?
Technically, yes.
And so the funny thing about it is there was this one time where I was like, no, there's this really amazing prop maker named Volpin Props. And I watched this video he made on making his Daft Punk helmet, and he just put little foam circles behind the LEDs. So that's what I do.
Oh my God.
It's just I'm wearing a foam contact lens, and it blocks out all the light.
But that's, you know, it's like, I don't mess with people too often, but the eye thing, people are just, can I tell you guys a hilarious story? And I think you'll appreciate it super quick. My favorite moment ever, and I think this is one of Sam's favorite moments of my reaction to the eye thing, was at the Renaissance Fair. And this like 14-year-old girl, she was in full, you know, Ren Fair attire. She was working the event, and she ran up to me and she's like, sir, I've got my eye patch on. Sir, I've got a poultice for your ailment. She's got like a Cockney accent, right? And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, if you smell it.
Did you shatter this girl's like heart?
I feel bad, but it was amazing. I leaned in and I lifted my eye patch, and she's looking just into the death hole, right? And I was like, is it back? No, sir, I'm so sorry. She ran away.
See, now you're an evil man. Now you're a supervillain.
Yeah.
You warped somebody. We were talking about how we like
14-year-old girl at a Ren fair.
Yeah, we're talking earlier about like, oh man, we inspire these people and we're like, help them out. And that girl is like, she's gonna have nightmares, dude.
Yeah,
I know. I regret it, but it was so funny.
No, I'm just gonna be thinking about cringy things for the rest of the night. We don't have to talk about it, but God, that's funny.
It's okay. It was a moment in time I regret now. No.
Okay, so we obviously went way over time, but just before we finish, Harrison or Bill, is there anything that you're excited about sharing with the community, or anything that you're working on that you want to share with people right now?
Man, I wish I could talk about what I'm working on.
Yeah,
you haven't been able to do that for like 5 years.
Right. The only thing we are working on projects. We started a project last week for a video on our YouTube channel at punishprops.com has everything. And then siliconsj.com is where the Silicon convention is. And that's where eventually, I was just checking the website. You can't sign up yet, but eventually there will be a place where you can register for my online thing on April 10th. So making a lantern out of foam, you'll sign up and get a kit in the mail so you can build along with me.
Oh, cool. Is it like
it should be super fun.
I think Santa just did one of those.
Yeah, actually. He did. Santa did one last week. Yeah. And Beverly did one a little while ago.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's not, like I said, you can't register yet, but that website is where you can go when you can register for it on April 10th is the actual day.
And I work for TNT Cosplay Supply. We sponsored Beverly and Spicy Ties. I don't know if we're sponsoring your build or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I'll find out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Harrison, what can you tell us about what's going on?
This is on the very, very thinnest horizon, and it's a possibility. But we are negotiating a license with Cyberpunk.
Oh,
really?
We may be selling katanas.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Extremely small run. I'm talking 20, right?
Oh wow.
Oh well, I won't be able to afford it then. So
they're going to be stupid. Like not to be like, you know, hey, my shop, blah blah blah, whatever. But like, if you want a month of our time, but we might be not certain.
That'd be bananas.
I think it's great. And it's great the fact that the CD Projekt Red is even considering doing something like this.
They came to us. That was the weird.
I know.
Like we finished up the job and they're like, "Hey, we love it. You guys want a license?"
It's so good.
Wow.
And they're super chill to work with. They're the coolest guys.
I'm the marketing coordinator of CD Projekt Red, or the North American one at BlizzCon, and because I was hanging out with Evil Ted, who was
Stephanie.
It was Stephanie and another gentleman named Greg.
Yeah.
and because Ted was dressed up as V. This is like a year before the game came out, and like I was like, Ted, these are the guys that make the game, and for them, I was like, I don't know. It was funny seeing two big titans of what they do talking to each other, but not realizing who each other were, which was really funny.
That is good.
It happens a lot, though.
Anyway,
people just being people.
It was just drinks at the bar and hanging out. And
that was how I met Bill. I literally met Bill at, I think it was like Anime Expo or something. We were at the LA
BlizzCon, I
Center.
think. I think it was at the anime convention. I've never been to Anime Expo. It would have been BlizzCon at the Anaheim Convention Center, I think.
No, Will Morgan was there. We were in the.
We probably met at Will's house when everyone was living in that big house in LA.
That's right. And Ted was there as well. And then I remember.
Yeah, Ted showed up.
Yeah. Ted showed up with his big old laser rifle from.
That was my laser rifle.
Was that yours?
But he made one for Blizzard like 10 years ago. He made one for BlizzCon 2006.
Wow.
Oh, which was BlizzCon 1.
Yeah.
I was there. That was probably for StarCraft Ghost then, because they actually had a working beta for it.
What it was. They had the Ghost statue and the rifle.
Yep. Were you at BlizzCon 1?
No, not 2006. No.
I literally found pictures of it just the other day. I was like, holy crap, that was a long time ago. But yeah, well, I'm done. I'm so just inspired and excited and want to go make stuff and play Cyberpunk and wield a katana. So thank you so much for all of you being on here. Chris, do you have any final words?
No, I want to thank both of you. You guys are both making this event and everything that we're doing so much more exciting for everyone, including all of the committee members and the judges. So thank you for lending your expertise and your personalities to everything we're doing. And a lot of people know we have a lot of big goals after the event itself, like doing books and boothing at cons and doing all kinds of tutorials and collabs. So I can't wait to see what happens after. But until then, we cannot wait to see what everyone is building for the three of the other people on camera to judge, while I just get to host a show.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
and I'm glad. I'm glad I don't have to compete against all of these people. Because,
me too.
Right?
God, like Bill and I had a conversation about this a while ago. It's like, we'll never compete in a costume contest again. Because first off,
I say the same thing.
Yep.
We don't have the time. Second off, we can't do better. And third, we'll only lose. There's two scenarios. We beat people.
Yep.
And then they're like, hey, fuck you. Yep. Why did you enter in this contest as a professional prop studio just to kick everybody's ass? Or we lose and everybody's like, hey, I beat Volpin Props.
Yep.
Fuck that guy.
Where'd all my YouTube subscribers go?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
that's
either a
why
total
we're going
asshole
to do
or you're a
BattleBots,
hack,
right?
is what happens.
Yeah.
So you can't win either way. And I'm glad I don't have to judge, because even selecting from what's going to show up in this contest is going to be very challenging for you guys.
God, the work from last year was insanity.
I have to say, I love the judging process personally. I think it's so fun. It really is. It doesn't bother me to go through and try and evaluate and figure out like who's been most strategic, and I think it's an exciting process personally.
Oh, and side note, really quick, there's somebody I saw in chat, Fiore. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Good to see you back, but missed your posts on Instagram. So I'm glad to see you posting again. Like your stuff.
I had one other quick thing. We have Judge's Choice Awards, and Bill's award, he decided, is going to go to his favorite prop. So they're going to get the Punish Props Best Prop Judge's Choice Award. And Volpin, do you have a theme for what you're thinking about doing for your Judge's Choice Award?
Oh, I don't know. Jerkface just took Best Props. So what the hell am I going to do? Dick?
I didn't realize I was locked in.
Well, I guess I'll do the Volpin Props Much Better Than Punish Props Best Props Award. P.S. Bill's a jerk.
Send complaints to punishprops@gmail.com award.
Something along those lines. I will make whatever Bill makes twice as large in chromed gold.
I will
make it 100 square
full title onto a lanyard saying the Much Better Than Bill's Best, all that, etc.
I looked at it through a jeweler's loop.
Yeah, right.
What did Bill do? Chad's only got one eye. He can't see shit anyway.
Harrison's trophy is going to be 100 square feet larger than mine.
Well, we might have to redesign how we name that. Maybe it'll be the Punish Props Best Prop and the Volpin Props Best Prop. I don't know, whatever.
Oh man.
But
how can we find you guys on social media?
Yep.
I know you guys said if people have questions to I think tweet you guys. So
I'll go.
what is it?
Punishprops.com is where all my stuff is. Chinbeard on Twitter and Chinbeard on Instagram.
Okay.
Yes.
Ours is pretty much Volpin Props everywhere. Mostly we update Instagram more frequently than anything else. Twitter is sort of a menagerie of sometimes props and sometimes my own personal beliefs. So, you know, follow that at your own direction, whatever. Like, don't expect that just to be prop making. I have a Facebook, mostly ignored. That's Volpin Props. I have YouTube. We post 3 things a year, maybe. I think we broke 54,000 subscribers. Really proud of that. But yeah, it's pretty much Volpin Props for everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, both of you guys, once again, thank you so much for being on. For those of you in chat, I hope you guys learned a lot. I know I sure did. And be sure to reach out and follow these guys as well. They've got a just wealth of knowledge. I know Chris and I both appreciate the time that we have every weekend to do these interviews. So make sure you guys tune in for next weekend's on Saturday at 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Let me tell you who we have on next week, because I've got a calendar, which is showing up on camera right now. Oh, we've got Psycat Cosplay and Paisley and Glue, who are our 2 administrative assistants on the committee this year. They're not actual judges, but they are phenomenal artists, and I'm really excited to get their perspective from how they see the show going. And it'll be right before submissions open for this event too, so that should be interesting.
That is amazing, and I'm looking forward to that as well. So without further ado, guys, if you guys can stay on, we're going to go ahead and host. Let's see. I see K-Pike Fashion on right now. I'm going to host K-Pike Fashion.
Fabulous.
And guys, go give them our love. And thank you once again, everybody, for joining. We will see you next week.
All right.
Thanks,
Later,
guys.
folks.
Bye.
Deal.